Can you look at today's Visa Bulletin and know when your priority date is going to be current? A lot of people mistakenly believe that they can look and see who's getting their green cards this month, who's eligible to file their adjustment of status, and that they can just do some simple math and say, hey, if right now in the EB2 category, Indians who had their labor cert filed anytime in 2012 or earlier, they're the current ones. Um, so that means that if my priority date's in 2019, then I'm just a nice 6 years behind them. This is not accurate. This is not how the Visa Bulletin works. The people who are eligible to file adjustment of status this month are the people who started, either they filed their labor cert or they had their I-140 approved, depending on what kind of green card they were doing. Those are the people who are now at the front of the line and are now filing their adjustment of status. Your case is going to be different because a lot has changed in the meantime. The main thing that's changed is, well, what hasn't changed is the number of green cards getting allocated. But there's no cap on how many people can start every year. So there's no limit on how many companies can do labor certifications, how many I-140s can get approved. But then everybody's squeezing out the same pie of visas. Every year, there are about 140,000 green cards to give out for employment-based people. Not just the worker, but also every sponsored person in their family. So if their kids were born outside the country and their spouse, instead of being one spot, that's 4 spots. That's the 140,000. There's some spillover. Sometimes there are numbers taken from other pieces of the green cards available, depending on how many people in other categories pursued green cards. But the problem for people from populous countries that produce large numbers of people trying to immigrate to the U.S. is that you can only have a 7% piece of the pie. All the Indians are sharing this sliver of pie, and more have gotten in the line over the past decade. So the backlog is actually growing. We can't say exactly how long it will take you to get to the front based on your priority date, because it depends on how many people are going to have a bite of the pie before you get up there. We don't know how many people are waiting to get a bite of the pie because it's kind of unknowable. So a lot of people have multiple I-140s. They get one, then they get promoted or moved to another company, and they get sponsored again, do another labor certification. Some people have a labor certification-based I-140, plus they do a national interest waiver. Some people do one in the EB3 category. Then later in their career, they get another one in the EB2 category. A lot of couples are both on that H-1B path, and they're both pursuing green cards. So they don't both need to get to the front of the line at the end. Whichever one gets there first can bring the other as their dependent. So not everybody who has an I-140 in a particular category is going to get to the front. Some people will leave the country. Some people will leave their jobs. Some people will get a green card through family or based on their spouse's green card process. There are a lot of things that can happen. I think a big part of the disconnect right now and why people aren't getting how long this backlog is because a lot of people, even some lawyers, don't appreciate how backed up the labor certification system is. So it used to be just a matter of weeks to get a prevailing wage determination, and then you do your recruitment, and then there's a minimum of 60 days till you file. Then you file. That date of filing the labor certification application locks in what will become your priority date, but it's not secure until your labor certification is approved, and then the I-140 petition based on it is also approved. At that point, your date is locked in. So right now we're looking at labor certification approvals are taking way longer than a year, and prevailing wages before that are taking longer than 5 months. So what was a much shorter process for these people at the front of the line now, when they were doing this in 2012, I would estimate that they were probably getting the whole thing done within a year. The prevailing wage and the recruitment and the labor certification filing all the way to approval would have been within a year. Now that's more like 2 years. So there's all this building demand, and especially people who started their green card in the last 2 years aren't even showing up in the numbers of waiting people yet. Because when you do a prevailing wage, it's not attached to a particular intending immigrant. It's got nobody's name on there. Well, not the sponsored um, alien. So, and it doesn't actually mean that a company will proceed. They do not have to proceed. A lot don't. So we just don't know. And we don't count those as people that might be future immigrants. They're not really calculated in that way. Then, once a prevailing wage, if it comes back, the company likes it, they still want to fill the position, they do the recruitment, they search for a U.S. worker who could take that offered job, who meets the minimum requirements. If they can't find one, then they can proceed with labor certification and then sit around and wait for well over a year. When that labor certification comes back, they've got 6 months to file an I-140 petition. When that I-140 petition's approved, that priority date is real, and that intending immigrant has that date, and they can use it if they still have a job offered to them at that company that sponsored it. So I think over the years, we are going to see a really growing backlog, and I think it is really perilous to look at the wait times from the past and assume the same is going to happen for you.